in the old days, I think there was a mystique, let's say with martial arts, where the master is already just sitting there and he doesn't have to do anything and he's sitting in a chair and there's legends about his skills, as opposed to a teacher who's on the mats with you and you see him warming up, you see him tapping, you see him trying a new move, you see him in the process of improving, which then you go, oh, that's how he got so good. So let them see you doing push-ups. Let them see you hitting the bag for half an hour. Let them see how you're always working on something. So at some point it clicks in their head, like, that's how you get good at things. Because if you hide that part of the story, how could they learn to grind? That there's pleasure in the grit, that they should be proud of themselves every time they show up and fall, when they don't get what they want. How else are they supposed to learn that that's part of the process? You got to demonstrate
competition.
Welcome back to FURYCAST. On today's show, I have a man I've been wanting to talk to for quite a while. Please welcome on the show, Mr. Ando from Happy Life Martial Arts. How you doing, Ando?
Very well, Mr. Fury. How are you today?
I'm doing well as well. That sounds weird to say. I'm doing well as well, but I'm doing
That's
pretty
good
great.
grammar.
You're in beautiful Southern California, Los Angeles to be exact. And
True.
if you could take 2 minutes to tell the people who you are and what you do.
I'm a lifetime martial artist. I teach professionally. I've been in Los Angeles for over 30 years now. I've been the chief instructor here at Don Barnes Karate Kids in Los Angeles. I've had the honor to teach thousands of kids. I've also teach adults in small groups and private lessons over the years. And I'm a junkie. I love this stuff. It changed my life. I believe it can change everybody's life for the better. So I just try to provide a welcome mat of sorts on the internet, through podcasts, through YouTube videos, articles, anything I've got on my website, free self-defense course. Anything I can do to provide a friendly welcome for more people to join our fold.
Awesome, man. And you said you've been in Los Angeles for, you've been in Los Angeles for about 30 years. Most people that don't, I lived in LA County as a teenager. Most people that aren't from LA don't realize that hardly anybody is really from LA. Most people end up in LA. Everybody's from somewhere else, right? Where were you from originally?
Buffalo, New York. Buffalo.
Bills fan?
Go Bills.
Yeah.
Go Bills. You have to. That's a mandatory requirement. Yes.
And so take me back to what really set you off in the journey of this martial arts journey.
Sure. Just a lost teenager looking for a little direction, and made that, like so many, saw Bruce Lee, and I just liked his combination of confidence and control. I wasn't really thinking about martial arts in any way. I wasn't worried about self-defense necessarily. I just thought, here's a skinny guy who's got an awful lot of confidence, and he seems to be able to control his body really well. I would like to have some measure of control of my life. So whatever he's doing, I'm going to get into that. And found those Bruce Lee fighting method books, used those as my Bible for a while, put a heavy bag in my garage, conned some friends to come over once in a while to try to mix things up and try things out. And one thing led to another, and I just kept going and going, and haven't looked back. So thanks to Bruce Lee.
That's the actual plot of No Retreat, No Surrender. You're learning from the Bruce Lee fighting method books. Yeah. You put up a heavy bag in your garage, and you invite your friends over to occasionally break dance and do some martial arts.
That's right.
But it always
my dancing is worse than my martial arts.
But it always seems to come back to Bruce Lee, especially for people, I guess, of our generation. Seeing Bruce Lee for that first time, I don't know what it is about. I can only describe him as magnanimous on that screen. I had a similar experience as a teenager in California, because I got to see Bloodsport in theaters, not on VHS, but at the movie theater, and to see Van Damme, 30 feet tall in slow motion, doing, with the music, life changing.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
sure, I do.
What brought you to California originally?
Hollywood. Yeah, the business. I always had a bit of a ham in me, and I'd already been writing scripts back in Buffalo, enjoyed sketch comedy and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, I'd like to spread comedy, positivity through the world through the medium of film. My wife, we had met in an acting class back in Buffalo, and she had the same idea. So we moved out to did the starving artist bit for, I don't know, 13 years or so, and then eventually said, hey, this is not cute anymore. We need to get down to some real income and stability. And I was lucky enough to start building a career as a teacher. But yeah, so it was the siren of stardom in Hollywood and all that stuff. Forgive me, I have a little bit of a head cold.
Oh, no problem. Just getting over a cough myself, so I'll probably cough a little bit. But man, people don't realize that it's so funny that the place everyone leaves all over the world to go to make it in film is the most expensive place in the world to survive. So it's very difficult to make a living in LA. And you were fortunate enough. Were you doing martial arts in Buffalo, or did you start when you came?
Yeah, no, I started in Buffalo. Martial arts for me, I mean, I didn't even use that as part of my acting and writing, directing stuff. Martial arts was always personal to me. It was private. I didn't put it on resumes. I didn't make
You
a big,
weren't
I
trying to
wasn't
get into
interested in
kung fu movies?
stunts.
You weren't trying to get into
Not at
action
all. No, I
films?
thought all that stuff was kind of silly. I wasn't really a big fan of that stuff, actually. Like I said, it was more about the control and the confidence. And if that was the vehicle that he used martial arts, that didn't mean that I was a big fan of all these terrible movies and bad acting, because I was a filmmaker and more of an artist. So I knew bad acting when I saw it, and bad plotting and bad action scenes. So most of those movies are not very well done, in my opinion. So if anything, I avoided that stuff. I wanted to make comedies, make movies outside the action genre. So yeah, but I started martial arts for myself back in Buffalo. Found eventually when the garage I realized was limited, and I knew that there was more out there and I needed to learn. And I found a Tae Kwon Do school. Didn't know what that was really at the time, but they had some weights in there. I thought, well, I understand that a little bit. So whatever this is, let's go for it. So I stuck around with the Tae Kwon Do. It was a very open-minded school. It was actually a judo school that rented out their mats to a Tae Kwon Do program. So I got to see judo. An Aikido instructor came, a jujitsu teacher came. So depending on what time you were there, it was like a college. You could just see all kinds of different martial arts or join a class, try this, try that. So it was a great way to just start before MMA really became popular, to see a mix of martial arts and hear the locker room talk about, well, that doesn't work, and I don't believe in that, and those guys are idiots. But at the same time, some type of collegiate feeling, like, hey, we're all martial artists, though. So I think it was a really great place to start. And then when I got to LA, I wanted to continue the martial arts, and I was a little more savvy about what I wanted. My goals had changed a little bit from just confidence and control, because my training had already kind of provided that. So then I was a little more interested in the self-defense, not just controlling me, but controlling somebody else, somebody who's out of control. And so that led to finding a style of Kung Fu out here. And I've been in that style ever since, along with a few other styles, as we all look around and realize, oh, I need a little more of this, a little less of that. And you kind of find your formula over the years.
Yeah, I also started in Taekwondo. That's my Taekwondo black belt back there. Was it ITF or WTF style? Do you remember?
ITF, yeah. At that time, it was the what year was that? Like mid '80s, late '80s into the early '90s. ITF up in the Northeast, I think, was still the more popular brand. WTF was starting its wave across the country. So when I moved out to LA, that was the thing. I went to Taekwondo schools first because I had earned my black belt. It's always nice to, if I keep this going, that would be great. But every time I went into one of those schools, I mean, everybody has their art that's meaning something to them at that time in their life. But for where I was and what I was looking for, WTF wasn't offering what I wanted, even though they would honor my belt and things like that. It was just like, no, I need to start over something else because this is not the direction I want to go in.
Yeah, I tell people I feel like because I got my ITF black belt. I started in the 90s and took some time off, and then came back, I believe, in 03, 04, finished up and got the black belt. But I feel like as far as ITF goes, at least around here, maybe New York is different, California is different, but it's not much ITF left. I feel like I was the last of a dying breed. And when we would spar, it was a lot of hard. It was a lot of bloody noses, cracked ribs. It was a hard style of martial arts. I actually ran into my old Taekwondo instructor at a restaurant just last Friday. hadn't seen in probably 10 years. Walk into a restaurant, him and his wife are sitting there. He comes up to me, and of course, the first thing he says is, "How's your nose?" Meaning, last time I saw you, I kicked you in or punched you in, punched you in the nose. 10 years later. So
Nice.
that's where the mindset of those guys were at. So you transition into Kung Fu. What style of Kung Fu was that, and where'd you start?
Right here, North Hollywood, Andre Salvage, master here, and was the last place I walked into. As these things go, I spent a long time looking for a school, like a year, and again, I had an idea of what I wanted, and I couldn't find it. But when I kind of like a James Bond movie, I opened up that door, and there was like this room full of what I saw as like assassins. I thought, oh my God. And I remember there was just a young female, and she was doing a technique. It was the first thing I ever saw, and she was just a green belt, just a small thing. And I just thought, oh my God, if I could just get that good, then I'll be happy. So yeah, it was Sansu is the methodology. It just means like free fighting, or
Kung Fu Sensu.
Kung Fu Sensu, which is really not a style, it's a methodology. You can debate about where the source of that comes from, whether it was a branch of Choi Li Foot or a family village art of Jimmy Woo, who was the founder who brought it to the United States in his 20s.
I heard he ran off with a secret book of knowledge.
That is part of this, one of the legends in the.
That's the other legend I heard. My brother did Kung Fu Sensu when we were out in LA. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Who did she train with? Do you know?
I'd have to ask him, because, like I said, that I left in '90, so I've been gone for quite a while, 24 years now. So, but yeah, that was the story he told me, that he at night he ran off with the scrolls. Is that part of the legend?
That's the legend. Yeah, I mean, there's a debate, as these things always go. Once you get into the history, everything's murky and nothing's recorded, and you just have to go by who do you believe. There are very reliable sources that show that it kind of is a village style of Choi Li Foot. And then there's the other more official version, like, no, this has nothing to do with Choi Li Foot. This is a special lineage where a couple generations ago, his ancestor had been a monk in a temple, and he took the books with him of techniques and healing arts and everything in there. No one's ever opened those that I'm aware, ever seen them. They're safe away with like the grandson. I believe his family's in control of those books. And ultimately, it doesn't matter. I spent my time trying to look into the history and what's true, what's right. And then I realized it doesn't matter. The real idea to me of Sansu is it's up to you. You're supposed to create, you're supposed to improvise, you're supposed to think on your feet, be your own man. And it doesn't matter where it comes from. Either you can perform these skills or you can't. So that is the only measure. I don't care whose story's true. It's almost like a test. Like, if you really care that much, then that just proves you're looking in the wrong direction. You should be looking forward, not backward. What can you do with these tools? So that's at least my approach at this point. I respect everybody's version of the history, but I don't care.
And yeah, a lot of excuse me, Wing Chun has a similar story, and several styles of Kung Fu have a similar story. Even, I mean, when you get into Tae Kwon Do, I mean, it's been around since 1950, but I mean, there's so many stories about how it really, came to pass and all the politics involved. But I agree. It's about, what have you added to the art? What have you added, to the community that you're trying to build in the martial arts, and ultimately, how do you live and govern your life as a human being,
Absolutely.
And hopefully you can touch and affect some people positively, while you're here on this earth. I try to do that through film and martial arts. I guess we do have that in common. But before we get into the film stuff, how did you transition into teaching there? So at the Kung Fu school, Kung Fu Sensu, you started, is that where you're teaching now?
Well, that is still my, again, because Sansu just means kind of freehand, free fighting. It's everything. So I don't have a problem looking at a Sistema class, and if there's something useful in there, bring it in. If there's something, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, been doing that for a long time, and if there's something useful there, then use it. It's anything goes. That's the whole point. So I don't have to be, oh, we like this style, I don't like that style, or even think in terms of style. It's just, what can you do? I don't care what you call it or where it came from. What can you do? Style talk to me is kind of like for kids. That's like, what style do you do? It's like, no. I don't do styles. I'm me. very much like a Bruce Lee thing. You have to be free of, because once you say, oh, I do this style, then that means I kick
You're
this
fixed.
way.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that doesn't fit your hip, or your knee joint doesn't work that way. So now you're doing that badly, or why don't you just do it your way? Take the idea like, oh, here's how a side kick can be if you need to kick in that direction. Okay, how does your body make that work? Can it work? Maybe it doesn't work. So I don't know. You have to just fix it, fit it to yourself, which is where that whole expression comes from. No matter what you get, what style, what teacher, it has to be filtered through you. And that's going to look a little different or work a little differently for each person. So as long as you're okay with that, and I am, go with it. Just play your strengths. That's it.
And why did you decide to start teaching?
Well, like I said, once the starving artist routine got a little old, I was in my mid to late 30s, and I was just lucky enough to find an ad for Karate Kids, Don Barnes Karate Kids, and I've been here for almost 19 years now. It was a full-time position to teach, and I hadn't thought about teaching children. I hadn't thought about Shotokan, or the kind of the traditional looking karate that they were doing, which is very similar to ITF, so it was not a big switch. And then I developed it from there. Then Don Barnes was very open-minded and allowed me to influence the curriculum so that it's been shaped into something a little more unique. So we have kind of our own style, so to speak, going here for the kids to work through. So it was just a wonderful way I never thought about making a living through martial arts. But once that started, I was like, oh, this is great to influence a bunch of younger people. When you deal with adults, it's very much like, well, I already do this and I already know that. And sometimes there can be a lot of obstacles to sharing what you've got, because they want to immediately say, oh, well, that's good, but look what I can do. Both kids, they're wide open. They didn't come from another style. They're not judging it that way. They don't have a sense of history or politics. So if you just say, hey, don't get punched in the nose. Let's see how we can solve that problem. Don't let me punch you in the nose. Figuring out how to move the body naturally and just solve these problems. It's very pure. And I think that's part of the freedom of it, the free hand. And every child is different ages, different bodies, different personalities. So for me, it's been a gift. I never thought about teaching kids, but by teaching kids, it's allowed me to be freer to say, yeah, this is not rocket science, people. Don't get crazy with this martial arts stuff. It's not rocket science. Someone's trying to kill you. Maybe it's barehanded, maybe it's a knife, maybe it's a gun. Don't let them kill you. And there are that many bright ideas how to create distance or go after them or whatever it is. Don't make it too complicated. Keep it simple.
And did your wife follow you on this martial arts journey?
No, not at all. Are you married?
Yes.
So why are you even asking that question? I've tried for years to get my wife into it. And however these dynamics and relationships go, in fact, she always questions every time I'm like, hey, I got to go to jiu-jitsu class. Hey, I got to go here. She's always like, why are you training? How good do you need to be? Like, what is this for? What are you doing? Like, fine, you just go buy another mountain bike. I could ask you the same question. What are you doing? What are you doing? So if you get the bug, you get the bug, but I can't force it.
It's true. It's true. I mean, why the mountains need to be climbed, you know what I mean? So you're doing Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I've been doing that for 14, 15 years. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, about the same amount here. Who you training with?
Higan Machado here at Beverly Hills.
Okay, you're over there with Higan. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, so my brown belt is through Eric Paulson under Higan. So I actually bumped into him. He didn't bump into him. He was teaching at the CSW coaches camp, and got to chat with him. Hopefully I'll have him on the show. He has a movie coming out, and I just did I do graphic design. I did one of the posters for his movie. So, and
good for you. That's cool. Nice to see those worlds connect. That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's a movie buff. He loves that stuff too.
Yeah. It was just one of those things where we were sitting and talking, and telling me I did I was a filmmaker and graphic guy. He's like, I need a poster. You know what I mean? It's just like that. But really great guy. So that's awesome, man. Yeah. So we're jiu-jitsu brothers, actually, you and I.
How about that? Small
awesome.
world.
Are you black belt yet or what?
No, I've been hanging on to brown belt since before COVID, and
same here.
I still am working at it, chipping away. And that's
same
fine.
Here.
But I have such a fun time with it. To me, again, it's like the Sansu element, because rolling is just same process you can apply to your stand-up of just figure this out. And Higan especially, there are many different teaching methodologies one can choose, and his methodology is definitely not, in my opinion, I would say, It's not like, okay, here are the first 30 techniques. You got to know this step, 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 and show me this, this, this. He's very much just like, get in there, just go, just roll. Let's go. Let's just figure things out. Along the way, you'll pick up little pieces. The challenge is just to keep getting on the mats. If you do, you're going to suck for a long time, but you eventually start figuring things out. And I had one karate teacher who always said, you never forget your own techniques. Somebody teaches you something, you're likely going to forget it or many of the details. But when you discover something for yourself, that's like this aha that sticks with you forever. So when you're suffering on your mount for a long time, and then one day you discover bumping, or one day you discover getting on your side, and you think you kind of figured that out, it kind of goes into a different piece of the brain, I think, than having someone take you on your first day and show you. It's just different. So whether by design or not, he is very much in that camp, I think, of just go figure this out. And I think it's been great. I've had a very good experience with it.
Yeah, I enjoyed his class, and hopefully I can spend more time in California and do that. I'm here in Houston, so it's a little bit of a trek, but
Sure.
I always enjoy going back to California and old stomping grounds and whatnot. So
Right
now
on.
let's get into your film history. So you said you wrote first. You said you wrote some scripts. Now, of course, I'm a writer as well. Of course, my feature film Lion Killer wrote, directed, edited,
Congrats.
all that good stuff, right? Thank you, sir. It's available on Amazon Prime. It's a jiu-jitsu movie, so check it out, man. It's
Very cool.
But Amazon Prime, Tubi, Freevee, all that good stuff. What was the first script you wrote? And yeah,
Comedies. It was all comedies. I've got a big stack of comedies. Probably whatever. I just kept writing them for years.
Who are you influenced by?
Oh, well, anybody makes me laugh. Again, that's like Styles. It's freehand. Wherever I can get a laugh, then if it's Jerry Lewis, if it's Monty Python, if it's the two Ronnies, if it's something drier, I don't Blackadder. I mean, there's so many different people who've made me laugh. Lucille Ball, just go down the list. Anybody who makes me laugh, I'll say, well, there's something there. I want that. Just like martial arts. If someone can impress me with something like, wow, how'd you do that? That's cool. I wonder if I could do that. So, just started jotting stuff down. Wasn't sure what a screenplay was when I was younger, but just started putting down ideas and trying to write dialogue and just kind of piece sketches together. And then, oh, these sketches might make a theme. This could actually be a longer piece. Hey, that's what a screenplay is. Oh, okay. So yeah, I came out with a couple of scripts, not knowing where that would lead. I always liked the Woody Allen model because he seemed to have control over his projects. So if you're an egotistical narcissist like I am, you want to have that. I want to be able to write that thing, shoot that thing, edit that thing, star in that thing. But at that time, early 90s, it was still a studio system. It was still a network system. So indie film was always around, but it was expensive. And I made a couple films on my own dime. But boy, it was difficult. Not just the shooting is the shooting. You got to rent equipment and get the film processed, all that. But then you have to go play the circuit of the festivals. So nowadays, if you're a filmmaker, wow, you can take your phone and get better quality than my 60 millimeter, and you can distribute it immediately on YouTube for free. Just wow. So it's a wonderful day to be a creative person. I hope people take advantage of everything they can. But back in the day, it was such a grind and expensive. And couldn't do it. I just could not play the game well enough to make a career. But on the other hand, it became a blessing because once I got into martial arts, I started to ask myself, is it better to create a fictional person who's a hero or to be a real life hero? Mm-hmm. Is it better to play Mr. Rogers in a movie or to be Mr. Rogers in real life? So, particularly with working with kids, it just felt like you write the script every time you do a class. You edit it, you control it. This is your studio. Whatever you say goes in this little dojo. So if you're a control freak and you're trying to push a positive message, which is all I ever was trying to do with the film, this is better. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to concede or make any kinds of compromises. I have full artistic control, which then leads to making YouTube videos or the podcast like you. It's like, this is a dream for a creator. Nobody is telling you what to do. So for better or for worse, there you go.
That's interesting. I've never looked at it that way. You know, I have my school out here in the Missouri City, Texas area. Missouri City's a suburb of Houston, and I've never looked at it like, hey, this is a canvas I'm painting on. You know, and I've been teaching kids martial arts since the '90s, but that is a completely unique perspective. And I come in and I'm casting the characters and I'm assigning them dialogue, and I'm doing all the stuff I would as a filmmaker. I'm going to take that into class tonight. Actually, I've got a few classes tonight. I'll use that. Now, with your scripts, you said you made a few videos. I mean, a few movies. You use shorts, or you a feature, or what'd you do?
Yeah. My ego is such that it had to be a feature, which was the mistake, because I was just obviously
At that
multiplies
time,
the expense.
Yeah, at that time especially, right? Yeah. What year was this? Like,
Sure. Well, around when they made Clerks and Swingers and all those early indies, like, oh, I could do that.
well, that was a
And in
light bulb
fairness,
moment for a lot of us. You know what I mean? I mean,
sure,
watching Clerks was like, okay, I can make a movie. I've always
I
wanted
can
to
do
make
that.
a movie, but you always knew, like I was a poor kid from the projects. I mean, just first of all, to get the education was completely expensive. Then, like you said,
Yep.
to get the equipment, you couldn't own your own equipment unless you were a millionaire or a billionaire. So, like you said,
Right.
you'd have to rent the equipment. But everything would just be completely expensive unless you're going to shoot on 16
Yep.
millimeter and you had a hand-me-down 16 millimeter camera and you're going to
Right.
shoot MOS, no audio, do the audio
Sure.
late. I mean, there's a lot of ways you could do it, but you'd still come away, even like Kevin Smith, 30 grand. If you would have
Sure.
told me when I was 19 years old, 18 years old, this endeavor will cost you 20 grand, you might as well say 200 million. It was all the
Yeah.
same.
Right.
It was all the same to
Exactly.
me, right? So it was just
Exactly.
out of the realm of possibility. But
Yep.
when collectively, when our generation saw Clerks, I think, or even Robert Rodriguez, El Mariachi, and like you said,
Yep.
Swingers, and the Ed Burns, the brothers McMullen,
Yep.
so on and so forth. All these movies came out. It was like every year there was one after the other. There was probably under a 50 grand feature
Right.
film that went to Sundance, got bought, hit theaters, was success. They were rock star filmmakers. And I know I'm probably forgetting a few people, but that in itself made, I think, a lot of us feel like, okay, I can do this. I can go
Yeah.
to the library and borrow a book on script writing and try to make it happen.
Yep.
And then you make a movie. It's so difficult, so hard, so gut wrenching.
Yep.
A process to do. Uh, it's not for the faint of heart. I don't want to I don't want to tell
No.
young filmmakers out there don't do it, because I know I made Lion King. I'm very proud of it. It did do the film festival circuit, but even that is completely expensive. You got to fly, you got to put
Sure.
yourself in a hotel, you got over and over again. It seems today the landscape of filmmaking, there's so much content out there that you're not only competing with other indie films, you're competing with, as you said, podcasts, YouTube channels that are, funny, quirky things, TikTok videos, to make money and to build a career off of filmmaking right now. It's simultaneously the easiest thing to do, easier to do than ever, but harder to make a living than ever. Does that make sense?
Depends what you mean by make a living. If you're talking
Oh,
about being a star and
sustainable.
being on the A list, then
No,
yeah,
sustainable.
that's always been difficult. Yeah, well, to me, it's just because there's more of it. That's there's still there still has to be some quality to what the work is. Just because that's like all people say, "Oh, I'm a photographer." Or are you? It means you bought a camera. Oh, it's such an easy level of entry to say you're a photographer. But
Yeah,
then you look at their pictures and there's nothing special about them. There's nothing
yeah.
groundbreaking about them. They're not really photographers. They're people who said, oh, I can do that. Not
Mhm.
because they love to do it, because they
Yeah.
just said, I can. So just because I say, oh, I can make a film. Oh, Kevin Smith made a film. I can make a film. That's the wrong reason to make a film. It should have started with, I want to make a film. If you're starting with that, I think the quality of your project is always going to be a little bit better. And that will always rise to the top above the people just saying, oh, Bloodsport, that's a cool movie. I can make a movie like that, which is why you have all these knockoff films and derivative films.
Yeah.
I know loads of people here who are actors and stunt people, and their projects suck. Not with any hate in my heart, because you see them replaying moments that we've seen in movies a million times because they don't have an actual vision for something that they want to do.
Yeah.
They just want to recreate things that they thought were cool, which is not the same thing. It plays differently. The reason that Kevin Smith or El Mariachi didn't just catch our attention, but we said, oh, I want to pay this guy, is because it was unique. There was an actual vision in there. There was something that caught the ear a little different. Like, what's this? As opposed to just derivative replays of things. So I still think there's plenty of room to make a living, not necessarily get rich and famous. Nobody controls that. But to be able to, you don't have to have a lot of stuff to keep living. You don't have to be in a high rent situation or high mortgage.
Yeah.
You can get by. So if your true passion is just to make films, go ahead and make films. It's cheaper than ever to make films. It's easier than ever to distribute and be discovered. And if it makes you happy, then go for it. Even if you have to supplement with a different job on the side, so what? Did you want to do it or not? There's the entry. The entry is so easy now. Again, it's just a lot of posers, but they can be filtered out. If you want to do it, I would say young filmmakers still go do it. Give it a shot. If you have the freedom and the luxury to even try, it's a sin to not try. Go ahead. You live in a society that can help. So do it. If we were in war right now, we're all in the streets fighting for food, then maybe that would not be a great career choice. If you have the luxury and the freedom to do it, especially if you have no kids or anybody responsible, you're responsible for it. Come on, give it a shot. I did that in my 20s. So I wouldn't tell anyone not to do that.
There he is. He's much more positive. See, I'm learning so much from him. That's why it's Happy Life Martial Arts. He's got a positive perspective. I would, for young filmmakers out there, I'd definitely say go for it, but also say supplement what you're doing with a YouTube channel, some other creative endeavors. Learn to do your own graphic design, learn to do a bunch of things that could play into your filmmaking. And I would document everything and upload everything, my entire journey on a YouTube channel, because the YouTube thing might blow up before the filmmaking thing blows up or whatever. Sure. So I would say diversify. Whereas I think my generation was like film or nothing. It's got to be film, the cinema. I would say you got social media that I would focus on, as well as making a feature film, and maybe even features. Man, I'm wondering if features, it doesn't seem like movies hold the same regard in society as they did in previous generations. Do you agree?
Well, I don't care, because what was your vision in the first place? Again, if you're saying, I want to make a feature, what are you talking about? Do you have a story to tell? Why don't you say, I have a story to tell? If it's a 5-minute story or it's a 5-episode miniseries, that serves the story. If I just want to be a film director, it's like, well, then that's not really coming from the right spot. You're just making up. So I want to be president. I want to be a black belt. It's like, what does that mean? You don't even know what the process entails. You start with, I just want control of my body. That's how I started. And one thing leads to another. Eventually you earn a black belt. My goal wasn't black belt. My goal was, I want to learn something about myself. So same thing. If you're an artist of any kind, it's totally ridiculous to say, I want to win an Oscar for best actor. It's like, that's not the goal. That's not the goal of an actor. The goal, you may get an Oscar someday. You don't control that. Your job is like, I want to express myself through playing different characters. There's something about that that just registers with me. It makes me feel good, or I feel like it's positive to add this to the world. Then wherever it goes, it goes. I don't care. Features, shorts, serve a story. Tell a story that you think is exciting and deserves to be shared, and then just see where that leads. I would say.
No, that's good advice. That's because there's so many different ways to tell a story today versus previous generations. There's so many ways you could chop it up.
Or which medium you choose. Some stories are going to be great on video, some are going to be better on film or IMAX. It depends what the story is. I'm not going to watch Howard's End in IMAX 3D. It's just, that doesn't make sense to me. Another thing that you said that reminded me, what I learned in the filmmaking process, because I made 2 features, neither of which will ever be seen. But
come on, man. I hate that stuff, man. I love that. Send me a link. I love that stuff.
But what I learned was, I mean, you just said, hey, learn about graphics, learn about this, and bring all these different skill sets into your process. I would say I learned the opposite lesson because I am a control freak. I did all my own graphics. I tried to do my own editing. I did everything, my own sound design. I did everything, which is why it was so goddamn hard. And also why the scope of the project was very limited because I could only do what I could do in any of those fields at that time. What I learned was some people love costumes. That is their reason to wake up. They love dressing people up. Rather than me just saying, well, I have to come up with some costumes to serve my story, asking people for help and to contribute, I learned is okay. Trying to do it all on your own is a mistake. And I fight with this still all the time. But it's very important. I thought asking people to come hold a microphone or to help me build a set was just a hardship and a pain. But it turned out they had joy. When you find the right people, they're thrilled to help. They want to be part of the community. They want to serve in their way. And you'd be a fool to not let them help you. And you build something together. Filmmaking, ultimately, if you're here in Hollywood, still with all the technology, there's 30, 40 people on set for any given scene. It's a crew, it's a team. Go watch the credits on the Avengers. Thousands of people involved.
Oh, easy.
If you try to do it on your own, you're making it harder on yourself. Yes, you have to manage. Yes, you have to make decisions. But I would be very open to saying, hey, I'm going to shoot a new film. And what do you do? What's your skill set? Can anybody help me with the audio? Is there anybody out there who's great with graphics? And I think it'd be amazing how many people for free would say, I'd love to do that. I just want to get the credit. I just want to see my name up there. Or I just want to contribute. I want to help. That I've learned exists and can be taken advantage of in a positive way.
I agree. The power of community, especially in creative endeavors. I mean, you can't really accomplish it without the backing of a strong community. Now, that community doesn't have to be large. You might reach out to 30 people and 4 of them, 5 of them respond, but you could do something great with those 4 or 5 people. Lion Killer was probably on set biggest days, not including actors, was probably 5 people on set. Of course, you are dealing with financial restrictions, so yeah, everybody wears multiple hats. Even the person doing the costume design might end up holding the boom the boom mic or something.
Sure.
Everybody's going to do multiple hats, but man, with a small group of committed people, I mean, you could really take over. You know what I mean? But consistency and grit, man, that grit, I can't say enough. I'm trying to pass these lessons of grit on to my kids in my martial arts school. What would your advice be to give the young generation? What kind of lessons to give them that grit they would need to overcome life's challenges? What would your advice be?
I think the number one thing is to be a role model of the grit. In the old days, I think there was a mystique, let's say, with martial arts, where the master is already just sitting there and he doesn't have to do anything and he's sitting in a chair and there's legends about his skills and maybe he demonstrates something once in a while. So you see a result of hard work, but you don't see the hard work, as opposed to a teacher who's on the mats with you and you see him warming up, you see him tapping, you see him trying a new move, you see him in the process of improving, which then you go, oh, that's how he got so good, because he's a worker, he's a grinder. So with the kids, if you're always kind of like the authoritative parent who's never actually cutting your own lawn or washing the dishes or working at your craft or whatever that may be, then the kid doesn't see the connection between, oh, the grinding that you're doing results in this reward. If they think it's all just magic, just do it because I told you, do it because someday you got to trust me, it's going to pay off. They want to see it. They need to see it. So let them see you doing push-ups. Let them see you hitting the bag for half an hour. Let them see how you're always working on something. So at some point it clicks in their head, like, that's how you get good at things. That's the way it's done. So even if they have like a sports hero, say it's they love LeBron James, don't just show his highlight clips. Don't let them just watch when he's kicking butt in the Olympics. Find those little documentaries where he's working out. He's listening to a coach. He's got an injury. He's training. Let them see behind the scenes what it takes to be LeBron James. If it's filmmaking, let them hear the story about how they couldn't get the actor they wanted. They couldn't get the financing they wanted. They didn't have control of the final cut. Let them hear the struggles that everybody goes through to be successful. Because if you hide that part of the story, how could they learn to grind? That there's pleasure in the grit, that they should be proud of themselves every time they show up and fall or they don't get what they want. How else are they supposed to learn that that's part of the process? You've got to demonstrate it.
What's next for Mr. Ando?
World domination, of course. What else?
Do you have any aspirations of getting back into film, doing a little acting, or are you just fully focused, concentrating on the martial arts right now?
Well, yeah, and the choice there between making, movies to me or being yourself, that to me is the choice. Like I said, it really was crystal clear. Like when Tom Hanks played Mr. Rogers in that documentary, that film that they had made about Mr. Rogers, and that poster. And Tom Hanks is a great actor, and nothing against him or anything. But to see him dressed like Mr. Rogers, posing like Mr. Rogers, trying to talk like Mr. Rogers, for some reason it hit me as the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Why don't you just use his real film, the real clips of Mr. Rogers, and just serve the documentary up and let his real life be the lesson? Why do we have to fictionalize it and change a couple things and airbrush some things and speed up the time? Why? The real story is better than anything you're going to fabricate. Why would I want to be in the process of creating a kind of a fiction about a real person when the real person is inspiring enough? So I don't want to be in the business anymore of fake comedy or fake laughs or fake truths or fake wisdom or fake anything. Martial arts, the blessing of martial arts is that it's real. If you do it right, it's honest. If you get choked, you get choked. If you get punched, you get punched. And to be able to be a full enough person to deal with that, face that, absorb that, deploy that, now you have a healthier human being. So I'm just very excited about the future of being more me, that expression. Everybody says that about martial arts, the Bruce Lee stuff. Oh, to express oneself, honestly. Everybody says, oh, I use martial arts to express myself. Okay, so now the follow-up question. So how? Give me an example of how martial arts, how you're expressing yourself. What does that even mean? I'm not going to put you on the spot, but for something to think about, what are you talking about? Because if you have a canvas with paint and I say, paint me a landscape of whatever, a moon coming up over a mountain. All right. So based on, if you're not a painter, you're going to have very primitive skills. But this is how I kind of see the moon. Is that the vision you had when you started painting? Probably not, because you don't have the skills to express your vision of what you thought you could paint. So martial arts is the same. When you say express yourself, what do you mean? You're going to do someone else's kata or their form, and you're going to do it perfectly? Is that your expression? Or are you just trying to match someone else's standards and their movement? So that may not be expression. So what is the expression? To me, it's that you can, just like a filmmaker, you have a vision. If you're a filmmaker, you have a story to tell. If you're a martial artist, someone's threatening you, I have a vision of how this situation is going to be handled. In film, depending on your budget, time to shoot, available actors, script changes, time of day, weather, your vision is going to be sullied. Something that you envisioned when you sat down with the paper trying to figure out what you wanted, and you think, okay, I've got this. You know how hard it is to make the vision come to life the way you actually see it. There are always concessions and changes. So you can live with that, that's fine. But there's always a struggle to make what I wanted to happen, happen. Martial arts is the same. Okay, here comes a guy, he's threatening me. I'm going to put him on his head with a hip throw. I'm going to drop him on the ground. That's the vision. Now we start fighting. If it turns into a scratch fight and a scramble, you still end up winning, but there was no hip throw. Are you a master? Did you express yourself? You got through it, but you didn't technically express yourself matching the vision that you had for that situation. So to me, the goal for whether you're a filmmaker, artist of any kind, martial artist, is that you have the ability to see a situation, you know what you want to get out of that situation, and you can make it happen as close to exactly the way you imagined it as possible. That would be a master. You can do anything you want. If you're Picasso and you look at that canvas, you go, you know what I want? I see something. Boom, 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 and I'm happy. That's it. That's what I saw. If that's true, that would be a master of painting. He could paint exactly what he imagined. So as a martial artist, or even as a human being, I would challenge anyone to say that's the same standard. Your goal is not to be a black belt. Your goal is, oh, there's trouble here. I'm with my wife and these two guys are approaching. Here's how I see this. I'm going to ward them off, get her through that door, get back to safety, and it's going to be happen quickly as I can, and no one's going to get hurt. Can you make that happen? I'm not saying it's always possible. Of course, that's life. That's the meeting of reality with your vision. But the goal should be to make that happen exactly the way you want it. And you need the skills to do that. And that's where training comes in, and finding teachers and finding mentors and experimenting and resistance training, so to speak. With life is its own resistance training. So start with the vision. What is it you're trying to achieve? You got to have that. You can't express yourself if you don't have a vision to begin with. What do you want? And now let's see, how close can you get to that? And if you don't think you can get there right now, that's where the training comes in. Whatever you're going to do, go get the skills, pay the teacher, get the private lesson, figure things out, stumble, try. That's the grind of it, trying to get to your vision.
Do you have any funny or interesting story you could tell about either being on set or teaching martial art?
Sure, I'll give you. How's this one? I was during the starving artist period. Sometimes I would work as a stand-in. So the guy who takes the place of the lead actor, so they can set the lights and move through the direction, practice with the camera before the actor comes in. Then you tell the actor, they want you to stand here, walk over there, and all the lighting's perfect, so you don't waste the actor's time. And at one point, I was a stand-in for Robin on the Joel Schumacher Batman with George Clooney and Chris O'Donnell. And so I was Robin. So got to the set, we were in the Batcave, Batmobile's there, everything looks super cool. George Clooney's over there, got his costume on, cool, and I'm a stand-in for Robin. So they put a mask on me, they put the torso on me and a cape, not the leggings, but just the upper body, just to get the lighting right. And there's a lot of downtime in filmmaking if you're just the stand-in. So I'm standing there waiting. And it happened to be the day, it was kind of like bring your kids to work day. So the crew had, wives coming in and out and little kids coming in and out, walking around because it's the Batcave and the Batmobile. Super cool, very good vibe. Everyone's having a nice day. But I'm standing there with the mask on. So at some point, a crew guy brings over like his little kids. He says, "Oh, look, guys, it's Robin." And I'm game. I'm a nice guy. So I'm like, "Hey, kids, how you doing?" Try to give them high fives and play with them. And at some point, the dad realizes that's not Chris O'Donnell. And he blows it. He goes, wait, kids, that's not the real Robin. And he takes the kids and he walks away. Now, that's funny or tragic, depending on your take. I was horrified. The kids were believing it. They were having a nice time. But the dad ruined it. So there you go. You want, once again, it's better to be the real thing than a poser.
That's horrible that he would do that. You know what I mean? It's
horrible.
Like, yeah, it's like, dude, just let kids' imaginations run wild.
They're like 5 or 6 years old. They were thrilled.
You know what I mean? They're in the Batcave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? God, it's amazing. It's amazing when I hear stories like that. But I will say this, man, you've done very well for yourself. You're helping a lot of people in a career path. It definitely seems God sent. So I want to thank you for all that you do, and let's stay in touch. Hopefully one day we'll meet at a Higan Machado seminar and we can roll together. And
that would be great.
Yeah. Talk to you soon, my friend. Thanks for being on the show.
All right. Thank you so much. It was an honor. Thank you for your great work.
Another episode of FURYCAST is in the books. I want to give a big shout out to Ando for coming on the show today. If you want to connect with him on his YouTube channel, it's Happy Life Martial Arts. His links are also in the description. You can also follow my new graphic novel, The Gentleman's Guild. Yes, I'm making a graphic novel. It's called The Gentleman's Guild with artist Ebi Canales. You can sign up for the mailing list now. The link for that is also in the description. And don't forget to watch Lion Killer, my debut feature film. That's right, I made a movie. It's called Lion Killer. It stars Regina Ting-Chen, who's currently on season 4 of Stranger Things. You can watch it at Amazon Prime, Tubi TV, Freevee, the Roku channel. There's even a full Spanish dub. And before you go, don't forget to like this video. Help us boost the algorithm by commenting down below. You can also subscribe to the channel, and yes, even smash that bell so you can be notified every time a FURYCAST video drops. This is Derrick Fury. Until next time, peace.